I have to fill some
so
big shoes here. So
you and Champagne Charlie, you guys are like the legacy of this maison or the Champagne house. Wow.
Absolutely, absolutely. So historic house, but for us, it was not here in the U.S., and so we're excited to bring. And I couldn't be more honored for the family to ask me to do that here in the U.S. So we do about 70,000 cases in production a year. So we're a very tiny production in terms of a house, but our real roots are founded under the city of Reims. So we have about 5 miles of caves, which our founder, Charles himself, bought from the city back in 1867. It's about 100 feet below ground. These are chalk deposit caves where every single bottle of Charles rests. It goes through secondary fermentation to give you that elegance and texture that we're looking for in every single bottle of champagne.
Nothing smells like champagne. I mean, I know that Prosecco and Cava, and those are great styles, but like this legit.
Yeah, aromatics. A lot of times people ask me, well, what's the perfect vessel? And you see a lot of flutes, you see a lot of white wine glasses. For me, I think our wine, because it's so aromatic, give it a little bit more room. Give it a little more room to breathe, and you'll reward yourself with that decadence on the nose and on the palate in the back end. So, of course, you know, if the flute is what you got and what you love, go for it. But check it out in a white wine glass. Check it out in a Burgundy glass, and just see what those aromatics tell your palate. It's really something special that our house is really proud of because of the aging process we go through, because of the style of grapes that we start with, focusing on the first pressing to get the really pristine juice. That's really the biggest difference between Charles and a lot of our neighbors. But we're proud to have this legacy that Charles founded himself and continue in our winemaking and our viticulture.
I know that, Philippe, we had a question, Mark, you can probably ask it, about the relationship between Charles Heidsieck and Piper Heidsieck.
And Piper, yeah, so absolutely. So Piper is our big sister. Piper was founded in 1785, so a few years before us. Charles is the great nephew of Florenz Heidsieck, who started Piper Heidsieck. So he comes from a lineage of Champagne house owners, but he wanted to start his own business and more so focus on his style of winemaking, which was a more aged expression of champagne. So for 125 years, Charles Heidsieck was owned by his family and his descendants only. And then it was purchased by an importer in the 80s. And now it's been purchased back by a French family in 2011, which also purchased Piper. So we actually own both houses now. And it's a very symbiotic relationship. Piper makes a very fresh, elegant style of champagne. We like this rich, decadent, bold, aged style of champagne that is completely different from Piper. So we go hand in hand, and it's a fun kind of 1-2 combination.
Really, everybody needs both. It's like you can't just have one little black dress. You need to have, you know, the really sexy one, and then the one that's like maybe a little more proper. You need
absolutely,
both.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah, Piper is the convertible Porsche. We're the convertible Aston Martin. That's the way I would look at it.
That's great.
You know?
Pudgy.
Should we make a little frosé if people aren't drinking and they're waiting to make the cocktail?
Yes. So please, you guys all, please start drinking, because you know, that's where we start. It's Boozy Brunch for a reason.
But maybe while we're doing it, Philippe, can you just also tell us, I mean, so when you have a glass of Charles Heidsieck, sort of what are the maybe sort of signature aromas? And I know like a lot of people are familiar with certain brands, like whatever you grew up with, like Le Clicquot or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you find when, you know, somebody becomes a convert to Charles Heidsieck style?
Yeah, well, the first thing that most people ask me is say, well, how much oak is on your wine? And I think that's really from the texture and the aging process. So the texture we get from malolactic fermentation, and then that steaminess and maybe that decadence that comes also is from the aging. So most champagne houses age their wines for about 2 years in the cellar with the yeast in the bottle. We go minimum 4 years. And sometimes we go 9, 10, 12, 15 years, depending on, you know, what the year gives us. And we look at our wines every single year, and then we put in the aging that we feel is appropriate for that year. Now, our wines are mostly blended, but their year is a base vintage is something that we heavily put a lot of consideration into. Now, because our cellar is so vast, we're really proud to have these incredible reserve wines at our disposal. So our chef de cab, our winemaker, has wines that span almost 2 decades at his disposal to create his blend. So I guess in terms of style, there isn't much out there like Charles, frankly. It's a very unique style of wine, which is such an honor to be able to work with. In this day and age where there's thousands and thousands of different wines, more importantly, thousands of different champagnes, Charles is really a true unique experience. But I think that richness and decadence on the nose and on the palate really comes to play. And the other thing that people always ask they say, well, why are your bubbles so tiny? And it's because our bottles take about 22 years to make. And considering the reserve wine that goes back to the 90s, blended with the fresh wine from the mid-2000 teens, put all that together in the cellar for 5-6 years, comes out of the oven hot and fresh, nice and sparkling clean, but then on the back end, those layers of creaminess, texture, I think apricot, dried mango, some passion fruit, all these types of unique flavors that come out of our brut. Now our rosé, which we're featuring today, is my absolute favorite. And the rosé takes all of that into consideration, but turns it up a notch. And what we're doing with the rosé, now you can see how small the bottle looks in my hand compared to the Magnum. We're working on getting more Magnums of rosé here. That's the next step. But our rosé, we're adding a still red wine that's made just like we would in Burgundy, so a Pinot Noir, and we're blending that in. Now with our rosé, because we like a very fresh and vibrant style of wine, we actually age it in the cellar much longer than our normal brut. So about 2 years, 3 years, sometimes longer than our normal brut. So for instance, our Brut Reserve is a blend of almost 50% reserve wines, whereas the rosé is a little bit less reserve wine, but longer aging on lees. So give you that texture and the decadence that we're looking for. So we're gonna feature the rosé today. This is actually base vintage 2012. So this is the youngest wine here is from 2012. The oldest wine, reserve wines, from 1999. So that's really the style of Charles, and the real power of the house is to be able to use these aged wines that have been meticulously curated from the moment they put in the tank to the moment they're blended into bottle and then go through secondary fermentation. And
I think actually, Philippe, you might have been the one who taught me in a former life, in a former position, that like a lot of these classic cocktails that we really love all get better when you add a little champagne to them, for instance.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we're doing a frosé today because I don't know, it's like beautiful outside. We're a little warm. So Matt and I think a lot of people have the ingredients for that. So we're going to put that together really quick. I'm just going to let everybody know. So I've got my blender, and I like this frosé recipe, not just because I wrote it, but also because it doesn't use simple syrup. A lot of us are trying to have less sugar, and most frosés have an addition of simple syrup to make them sweet. But I just use fruit that's very ripe to make it sweet. And all you have to do is pretty much do equal parts into your blender. So I just put in some rosé wine cubes, and then I put about an equal amount of frozen peaches. And you can do any fruit that you want: blueberries, peaches, raspberries. I always have too much, right? My mom taught me this. Like if you buy a little too much and the fruit gets a little too ripe and starts to go a little over the edge, just shove it into the freezer, and then you can make frozen wine cocktails with it. So that's what we have here. And then I always love to use port in place of simple syrup. So I know, Megan, you couldn't find it, I'm sorry, but I'll give you a bottle. So this is a pink port, which is relatively new to the market and not available anywhere, but apparently in Chicago. But you can also use any kind of port that you want, because port has a little bit of sweetness to it. So I'm adding a little bit of pink port.
Specific measurement be, or are we just kind of going by taste?
Eyeball it. Just make it just about equal parts. I mean, you can't go wrong. And the beautiful thing about a cocktail versus making champagne or wine is it's a short play, right? If you screw up, you can just add more of something or less of something. I see Cajo's got these silicone ice molds, which I'm obsessed with for like in and everything. We put pesto in these. We put herbs in these that are about to expire. I also freeze wine in them. So I've got the cubes of wine. I've got the peaches. I added some port, and then I'm also going to add my Grand Marnier, Cointreau, any liqueur. I see a lot of different versions going on. I'm going to add that. You can also add some lime or lemon, whatever you want. I mean, you can't make this incorrectly. Although we probably could have made Lamar's recipe incorrectly last week. I feel like it all turned out okay. I'm ready to blend.
Is this top 5 in your list of drinks to make, Belinda?
This is my favorite because I have these things in my freezer anyway. Don't you all have a ton of booze in your freezer?
Wish I had more.
Always.
If it's not as frozen as you want, you can always just put it back into the freezer for a little bit and then sort of scrape it like a granita. But for this recipe, the frozen fruit sort of adds the texture to it. So Look at that. I got like a whole frozen in here.
Nice.
And I clearly didn't screw the bottom of my blender in enough because now it's all over my floor. But you know.
Look at the dream team. Look at the dream team.
I know. So look at that. We've got frosé. It took 2 seconds. It has no simple syrup. It's all natural sugars. And then what we're gonna do, what I'm gonna do,
It's so
is
good.
this a frosé with this recipe.
Here we go.
I
Yeah.
also
There you go,
more.
Philippe.
There, Philippe's got it going on.
Yeah. Let's see you, Mark.
I also have my.
Dustin.
Well, how'd you make it red, Mark?
There you go. Oh, see, he did a red one for fun.
Use strawberries.
It seems a little maybe wasteful to add something as epic and wonderful as Charles Heidsieck champagne, but like I like to make a Long Island iced tea with really high-end spirits. So, you know, you're gonna drink well. You should
Yeah,
drink.
absolutely.
Top shelf.
If you're gonna do it all the way, you know.
But I mean, any kind of sparkling wine I think is great on pretty much any cocktail. We talked about that yesterday at Monteverde, Ed, about how I love how Philippe taught me that you can put an old fashioned and do really high end stuff and put champagne on top.
Some garnish
I
action
love
over
this
here.
kind of. You see some garnish action happening.
The garnish game is strong. Yes.
I love this. So you can just make tons of it, and it's just equal proportions of everything. And I don't think it's possible to do it wrong, right? Does yours taste okay?
Yeah, and
Matt?
you know what? I told Belinda this. I might have told a lot of people this. Last summer bartending, I must have made maybe like 25 different variations of rosés because I was in charge of making the slushy recipe. And making rosés are super easy and super delicious. So like Belinda said, you can use anything you want: blueberries, strawberries, different kinds of fruit, rosés, fresh lime juice, fresh grapefruit juice. Mix it up, see what works for you, and it's gonna come out delicious. Honestly, I didn't have anyone complain last year about all my summer.
I thought this was Cajo, but this is Mark and Dustin.
Oh!
Oh,
I
wait,
don't know,
well,
Cajo.
hold on.
They're coming for you. Oh, Cajo's got a super.
Tahoe said, "Hold my beer, hold my beer."
A simple one today.
Look at that little cocktail pick. That's so amazing.
Awesome.
I mean, I had to go ham, you know. So we have the.
Yay.
Okay. Oh, wow. Very tropical.
Cajo got some competition, Cajo.
Uh-oh.
You know what?
Best cocktail for all summer long. You can do a winter version too with all red things or darker things and brown spices. So cheers, everyone. You now have a drink. We learned just the tip of the iceberg from Philippe, and maybe he'll come back and do 200 level with us because it's clear that champagne is, you can never stop talking about it and drinking it, in my view. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you guys so much.
Before
Yeah.
the next guest, I just want to ask Philippe something really.
Drinks. We need something to eat, Matt.
Cool. So really quickly, I want to ask Philippe really quick because I know that we talked about this a little bit, and I just think it's a super inspiring story, an amazing story that the success that Philippe has reached in the wine world, which I mean, let's be honest, it's a male-dominated and white-dominated industry, and to become the face of a champagne house that big here, I think that's really inspiring. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts, Philippe, on what you think needs to be done in the future so that more POC have a chance to reach the heights that you have.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for asking the question. I mean, we're all kind of going through a lot of thinking and thought that I think needs to turn into action. And I think the action is the next step. I think everyone has reflected on that there's a problem. But more importantly, I think it's about trying to offer support, offer advice. I think my experience growing up and being passionate about wine, everyone telling me that, no, you need to focus on finance or you need to focus on law school or something that, you know, is what we should normally be aspiring to do. But I trusted my gut. I went against a lot of my family's urges to get away from the restaurant business and get away from wine. But I knew there was something there for me. And without a few of my mentors that I had in early time, I wouldn't be in this role at this point. But I think what we're really trying to do right now and some of the work that I'm thinking about and have been thinking about over the last couple of weeks is how do we connect as much as we can with people of color in the industry, whether you're a bartender, whether you're a server, whether you're a som. How do we connect with them and remind them that they have resources and use us as the the elder statesmen to be guides and advisors. I think if I had some more mentorship, maybe at an earlier age, I may have been here sooner. But I think at the end of the day, I've been really fortunate to have some great opportunities to go and work at vineyards, to go and represent some of the greatest wineries in the world, and also for myself to be in a position where I'm managing a business for the U.S. and also the face of the brand, like you said. So I think my story, being able to share that with the youth and with folks that are interested in learning about wine, is the first step. But the next step is creating internships. The next step is creating job trainings and programming where we can get folks into the actual doors of restaurants, into the doors of wineries, and into a classroom setting in an accredited university to give them the skill set to get the job that they really want or the next job that they're looking for in their career. So I think that's kind of my focus. I recently was elected to the board of the United Sommeliers Foundation, and we're a group that focuses on helping sommeliers in the United States. Obviously, this all happened at the beginning of COVID, and we realized that our sommeliers out in the US are the first ones to usually get laid off or cut from the programmable restaurant. So we immediately were founded in the support of them. And then we're now thinking about the future of the USF and thinking about how we can be more involved in the community. And my job, is really to really push everyone around me to challenge themselves to think about what they can do more for our POC and our industry and our neighborhood and communities of the entire hospitality world.
Nice.
So I think that is the next step. So I would say to people is, think about what you can do to encourage others, encourage the young folks to want to learn this profession, want to study about wine. And also at the end of the day, you have to think about how we can support those folks to get to the next level. So that's really the gist of it, but it's a lot of work to do.
So we all have a lot of work to do. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
I just put in the chat a link to go to donate to the USF, which is the organization that Philippe was just talking about. So if you have the means, please donate to that. Thank you so much, Philippe. You were amazing, dude.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Philippe.
We'll talk soon, my man. All right, and so there is the United Sommeliers Foundation logo again. The link is in the chat. On to our next guest. Like Belinda said, and we need some food because I already had like 2 weeks before brunch, and now this. All right, so next up, we have our second guest. So for today's picking portion, we have a cheese expert, Lydia Burns, in the building today. Hopefully you purchased that steel of the package that she was offering, because today Lydia is going to show you how to cut it, pair it, taste it, and then ultimately we're going to make a grilled cheese with one of the sandwiches, the ultimate grilled cheese. Do a little walk down memory lane back to our childhoods. So Lydia, how's it going?
I'm good. And yeah, actually cheese is known colloquially as the drunkard's biscuit. So it's a perfect thing to offset if you've had a little too much to drink and don't have much in your stomach, because cheese is naturally really fat, protein, and nutrient rich. So it really helps absorb any alcohol you might be having, which makes it the perfect thing to eat in and of itself alongside some drinks. So I think that's a perfect segue.
Yeah, so walk us through what we're looking at here with the cheese, and then kind of tell us at the same time how you got into cheese at this level.
Yeah, so I've actually been working with cheese for over 15 years. I sort of stumbled upon it. In a former life, I was a professional actor and in bands. And while I was working in New York, being a performer, of course, I needed to make sure I could pay my bills regularly. And I just happened to stumble upon a job in a local cheese shop. And that just coincided with there being a lot more awareness about food and where it comes from in this country. And then also the growing artisan cheese industry in the States. And so I was just so compelled by all the people that I met and so fascinated by cheese and continue to be fascinated about it 16 years later. So I just sort of switched gears and became what we call a cheesemonger, or I like practical. For me, the most important tools for cheese are two things. You need a chef's knife for hard cheese, a really sharp one, That's most important. And then for soft cheeses like this, blue cheeses, anything that's really soft and gonna stick to the knife, you don't want to use a chef's knife because that, as the blade runs through, it'll stick to it. For soft cheese and blue cheese, you really want, this is a special cheese knife, so it has a really thin blade with reduced surface area. You want to use something like this. It can also take the shape of like a little classic French pocket knife, or there's also these special tools like a blue cheese knife that has holes in it that's designed so the cheese doesn't stick. Or sometimes they look
This
like
thing, right? I love this one. It's so
exactly. Or sometimes they look like this, like a piece of cheese, kind of cute. To me, those are by far the most useful tools.
So all of us need to ask for our birthdays and for Christmas, like some different cheese accoutrement, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I think like you can use, we'll get to those little spade looking things later. You can use those for hard cheese for chunking. But really, to me, those are the two essential tools. You don't really need much else.
Gotcha.
Unless you just want them to look nice on the table, which they do.
We love it. So we just have a couple seconds to kind of quick go through the rest of the cheeses and make our grilled cheese sandwich. So tell us what we need to know, Lydia.
Yeah, so for soft cheeses, the key is, because as you might notice if you have some now, the soft cheeses at room temperature get pretty runny. So for presentation purposes, my recommendation is to not mess with them too much. You just want to cut them into a manageable size, maybe some wedges to show people kind of how to do it so they don't savagely eat the interior and leave the rind, because in soft cheese, the rinds are 100% intended to be eaten as part of the experience.
Interesting.
So for soft cheeses like that, I always recommend keeping them largely intact and then providing them their own knife when you present them. Because the thing with cheeses, the flavors intermingle. And so you want to make sure any cheese that you're serving with a knife has its own knife. You don't want to mix them, especially if there's blues in there. And then as we move on to firmer cheeses, this is the Osso Arati. This is a classic Basque cheese. This cheese predates the English language. So this has been made in the Basque region for thousands of years. This is made by traditional shepherds in the mountain. It's 100% sheep's milk. This one is from Agur, which is a cooperative. Most of the farming in the Basque and in a lot of Europe is cooperative. So one family makes the cheese and then they collect milk from a bunch of neighboring small farms.
Lydia, I'm just going to stop you for a second. Everybody can't stand it. They're all eating, just FYI. That's a good thing.
So good. They're all so good.
Yeah, so for these guys, when you get these beautiful little wedges, the number one rule is you want to maintain the ratio of paste to rind. So I always like to, this is a natural rind, which means it's edible. I always tell people, taste it. If you like it, eat it. If you don't like it, don't eat it. The rinds are definitely earthy, but they're totally natural and there's nothing in them that you can't eat. The only exception is going to be Goudas that have wax rinds. That's not edible.
Don't eat the wax.
Some manchegos have a wax rind too. Anything that is wax or polycoat, you don't want to eat.
Ooh, the rind is good.
The rind's delicious, right?
Yeah.
So in this one, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but I cut it in half. And then you're just gonna do these little triangles cutting about, you know, 1/8 of an inch. You're gonna work your way from the center. And you wanna get as close up to that outer rind as possible because all of that cheese is perfectly edible and you don't wanna waste it.
Lydia, can you hold it up? Because I see like Ed trying to mimic what you're doing. So
basically you're just gonna work this way.
There we go. Whoa.
This way in, cutting little wedges. So then you get these beautiful little triangles. And
Can you flip your hand over? Flip your hand. Yeah, there we go.
So, and these are like the key to beautiful presentation because once you get going, I'm gonna arrange them real quick and then I'm gonna show you. But you can do, I like to call it Art Deco tiles. You can really get these beautiful patterns. And people always ask me like, how do you do it? But it's so easy. I did that kind of quick and dirty, but That's the general idea.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Wow. That's next level.
And that's gonna work for a cheese like this, manchego, anything that comes in that perfect little wedge. You know, it's just a quick and easy way to present it beautifully. And the nice thing about that is that then you don't have to leave other people to hack at it and kind of destroy that ratio we were talking about before.
So good.
So the next cheese is the cheese that we will be using in the grilled cheese. This is Hallerhocker, and this is an Alpine cheese near and dear to my heart. It's from Eastern Switzerland in the Alps. So it's right on the border of Austria on Lake Constance or Lake Bodensee, depending on which country you're in, they call it a different name. And these cheeses are just stunners. They have so much complexity. I call them a meal in a cheese, which is why I think they're perfect for a grilled cheese. And then for these guys, they have this beautiful, really elastic paste. They're super easy to cut. You can do a similar technique to what we just did, or you can kind of cut one side off. Again, you're gonna get really close to that rind. You don't wanna waste any of the cheese. And then I like to do these little like matchsticks, leaving the one rind on. Again, the rinds are edible on this cheese. It is washed, so it has a little bit of a funky flavor, which some people love, some people don't. So,
No, listen, Lydia, we love a little stank. I love that everything has an aroma here. It's awesome.
yeah. So then you get these fun little matchsticks, and they're ready for individual portions. And then you can also kind of do some like fun little serving where you just sort of can do some little fun geometric shapes.
Well, Lydia, like basically there's not like an actual answer to what is the proper cut for these cheeses. You basically just want to give people pieces that have rind and then also the other part and just make sure they get to experience it.
There's no right or wrong as long as you're evenly distributing the rind. You don't want to be putting a big piece out that's all rind. Or like, again, with the soft cheeses, you are technically supposed to eat the rinds. A lot of people don't. They like to scoop out the middle of brie. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of creativity, especially as mongering progresses in this country. You'll see people carving things in really elaborate shapes using cookie cutters. I mean, use your creativity. Instagram has really blown up with these cheese boards. So I encourage people to definitely be creative. But I think that rind to paste ratio is the #1 rule, and then take it from there.
Nice.
It also helps, you leaving the rinds on helps denote the different cheeses, because as you can see, a lot of cheeses are very similar in color. So it helps to have that rind there to denote some variation.
I love it. So you guys, just so you know, Lydia, who clearly is such a Zoom pro, has been doing classes like this and all kinds of things, fondue classes and all the things you can do with cheese since the pandemic started and maybe even before. So if you want to get a group of friends together to do something, she is a perfect person to call. But now, as everybody is slicing their cheeses and also making their board, I think it's time to heat some butter in your pan and get your bread ready.
Grilled cheese.
Yeah, and so I asked her for the ultimate grilled cheese recipe because I feel like all I ever knew, sorry Mom, if you're still here, was like white bread and then a little Velveeta or some sort of slice.
Like cheddar.
I don't think my mom even put butter on the bread. I think we just maybe put it in the microwave. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
My mom definitely didn't put butter on the bread.
Right, Matt? So like your recipe is like, if you're just gonna really do it right, this is how grilled cheese is done, right?
Well, and I think with grilled cheese, there is an impetus, like a lot of things, to go really complicated. But the key is if you pick a really good cheese and a cheese that melts. I think a lot of times what people don't realize is the cheeses they pick for grilled cheese. Obviously, American cheese is an exception because that's a processed cheese that's designed to really ooey gooey melt. So that's a little different. But when you're working with key cheeses, a lot of people go right to cheddar. I love cheddar. I am super passionate about cheddar. But the thing about cheddar is it's a high acid cheese, which means it separates a lot. So it doesn't melt as well. But that last cheese we talked about, that Hallerhocker, is an Alpine cheese. And that is going to be perfect for melting. And if you are someone who doesn't eat cow's milk, I know a lot of people don't. It's a dietary thing. The cheese that I would recommend next is that Osso Arati. That'll also melt really well.
So Lydia, I've got in my pan like a good butter. It's Plugras. I've got pieces of sourdough. So I kind of drench them in the butter. So both of them are in there. The heat's on low. So do I build the whole thing in my cute little cast iron that I borrowed from my mother? Sorry, Mom. If you're looking for this pan, I took it. Okay, so do I now put like the mayonnaise and everything onto the slices of bread?
So the mayonnaise actually is for the outside.
Oh, it's for the outside.
Yeah, so the butter and the mayo serve two functions. The butter is for flavor because who doesn't love the flavor of brown butter? But the mayo actually, it's optional if you're really adverse to mayo. But it turns out just because of the chemical composition of mayo, mayo yields a super crunchy, brown, even melt. Whereas the butter sometimes can saturate flavor, but it doesn't always give you that crunchy exterior. So I like to do an even half mayo, half butter on the outside.
So the mayo's on the outside and the bread is on the heat with mayo and butter.
And then on the inside, all that's gonna go in is the caramelized onion or the onion jam if you're going the savory route, or if you're going the sweet route, you're gonna do a thin layer of the compote or the jam that you pick.
So this is also, I think this is a brilliant recipe, Lydia, because I have some leftover wine. Shocking, I know. It's not the most expensive stuff. It was Grand Cru, I chugged it, but I have some leftover wine. So we just caramelized onions and then we deglazed the onion pan with some wine. And then you get this delicious stuff, right?
Yeah.
Innovation.
Right, so then this goes onto the inside of the bread for the inside of the sandwich?
Yeah, and so you're gonna do that kind of, I think the secret to a grilled cheese is you don't wanna have too many ingredients and too much stuff because you really want it to be about that ooey gooey cheese. That looks beautiful and perfect.
Wow.
You're gonna do about an even layer of the onions. If it's a jam, maybe a little less. And then depending on the size of your bread, 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces of grated cheese maximum. I know it's super tempting to put a lot of cheese on there.
Are you sure?
But too much on, sometimes it doesn't melt. The other trick to making a good grilled cheese besides selecting an awesome cheese is that you grate it. And the thing about grating is that grating the cheese is gonna provide even surface area so that the cheese all melts more quickly. Because sometimes when you cut shreds, like you do slices or chunks, you might find that the outside browns, but the cheese is still not completely melted on the inside. So grating is really key to making an awesome grilled cheese.
Done that before. That's like such a good pro tip, to grate the cheese instead of putting the Velveeta
We're
slice.
making it easier for us to eat more grilled cheeses, Lydia.
Exactly. And the nice thing is too, is you can prep it all up, and if you grate too much cheese, just keep it for the next day. Put that in a little Tupperware container. Or a bag. It'll keep. So and then
like toasting away. I'm waiting for the melt. I'm getting ready. Oh, someone grated. Who is that? Gabe. Well, Charlie, well done.
Go, Charlie.
Well done. Go, Charlie. She's like, I'm going to do it proper.
We regret it so much.
it melts really quickly that way. And then it's really just about making sure everything melts on the inside and the outsides get brown.
Right.
So you're going to want to put it in the pan. And then I like to put another pan on top of it, or a lid, or a plate.
Oh.
Something to give it a little bit of weight. If you're using a panini press or like a Foreman grill, you don't need to do this step. But the idea is you don't want to press too hard on the grilled cheese, but you want to make sure that bread gets a nice even brown. So you want to apply just a tiny bit of pressure.
To get it to like melt a little.
Yeah, so a lid that's not for the pot, that's slightly smaller, or a plate. So you don't want to like smash it down, but you just want that weight, the weight to like push it down a little bit. Usually it depends on your pan. If you're using cast iron, it might be a little quicker, but you're gonna wanna do about 2 to 3 minutes on each side until you get that brown, crispy golden, and then that the inside of the cheese is totally melted.
I totally did it. Just doing a little bit of pressure like made the whole thing happen. Mine looks amazing.
I mean, it's the same idea as a panini press, but then you don't need another piece of equipment in your kitchen. and you're just gonna get this really perfect, gooey grilled cheese that's delicious. And one of my favorite tricks, because my favorite things are the little crispy cheese bits. Sometimes what I'll do is on one of the sides, I'll sprinkle a little bit of the extra grated cheese that I have on the outside of the bread. So when I flip it and that side goes on the pan, you get one side of little crispy cheese bits.
Smart, Lydia. Smart.
Yeah, that's next level. Whoa, whose is that? Mark Chico.
Oh.
So gorgeous.
Mark, you're killing it.
Are you gonna do her little trick, Mark, and put some crispy bits on the outside? Also, last week, I'm not sure.
He's happy. Look at Mark. He's happy.
Gabe, last week I think that we did set off a few smoke alarms in many cities across the globe. I mean, nobody's having any problems this week so far, right?
So you know you're having a good time.
Lydia, this is the best grilled cheese I've ever made in my life. I'm so excited.
Yay! It'll go great with that sparkling rosé champagne.
Woohoo!
Nice.
So Lydia, I know there's like a million things more that we want to learn from you, but we only have a set amount of time. And Matt, and Gabe, and team, if we're ready to let everybody finish their grilled cheeses and move on, I think it's time. So I have the privilege and the honor to introduce my good friend and someone who I admire so much. Her name is Wendy Wilkins. She is closing out today's brunch, although I think we just have many more things to do and discuss. Bailey, well done. That's freaking gorgeous. So Wendy Wilkins is a director for an amazing non-for-profit organization, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. It's called Dress for Success. She's here to talk about Dress for Success today and how they empower women all over the central region, what they define as the central region of the country. But I think what's much more interesting is that so many of us are being asked, and I think everybody is being asked, to support the various movements and the various things that they believe in right now. And I don't know about you, but all my social media feeds are filled with like organization after organization after organization that we should, you know, quote unquote, support. And I wanted to have someone who oversees an amazing organization and who also knows so much about this space to help us to understand like what our responsibility is in terms of how we research who we're going to contribute to, and then also tell us why, because I already know, but you need to know Dress for Success is definitely one of those organizations that we should all support. So Wendy, we're so excited you're here, especially because you also come from the fashion business, which I also really love. But I know that we have a little video to show before we kind of get into it here. So Gabe or Mark, I don't know who's in charge of showing us that video, but Wendy, should we do that first?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Belinda.
Fantastic. Do we think we have sound? I hope we have sound.
Success.
Can you hear it?
Around
Yeah. No.
crisis.
Okay, now.
But in my lifetime,
Yeah.
probably in yours, we've never been in the same boat at the same time. I start this message to you by asking you to do any and everything possible to remain safe. Protect yourself with masks and gloves because we need you. Your family needs you. And the women of Dress for Success need you. We heard from you through a series of surveys generated by Liz that 90% of our boutique business is closed. However, more than 70% of our affiliate network pivoted to virtual trainings. More than 75% of our affiliates are in touch with the women, and what they've heard is that women are in fact losing their jobs. They're experiencing food insecurity, they're battling depression and stress, but yet they remain strong, as the majority of them are head of household and are responsible for the lives of not only themselves, but of their children and even some of their extended family. Our women also have family members who are being diagnosed with the coronavirus. Your pivot to virtual programs was done quickly and with few hurdles. I salute all of you that found your way locally to continue the work and continue to touch the lives of the women in our community. The trainings are being done with your volunteers and trainers, along with Worldwide, who's created a series of virtual workshops. Our first virtual workshop launched amongst our affiliate network had 200 women registered. We anticipate that these numbers will continue to elevate, and more women, as they get accustomed to virtual training, will join our programs. Many of you are using your local news and social media to keep your donors, volunteers, and clients informed of the work that you're doing. The messages you're sending are strong, and we continue to want that message to be strong globally. What I know to be true is that this is no time to sit back and wait. We can't wait to see what happens when we're post-pandemic. We can't wait to see what happens next. In fact, we all have to move forward. No one can predict when we will be on the other side of this. So frankly, waiting might just limit our ability to be strong.
So Gabe, thank you for playing. That's not the whole thing, and we're going to give you the link to see the whole thing, but that's Joy Gordon, who is, what is her official title, Wendy?
The CEO of Dress for Success Worldwide.
And we love that. And I think that, you know, why we wanted to have you on, many reasons, because I just love you and I love this organization.
Thank you.
I think that, like, we're all sort of bombarded. We're all being bombarded in so many ways with, like, what to support, how to support, and all that kind of thing. And so, you know, we wanted to ask you first, before we talk about Dress for Success very specifically, what should we be looking for as responsible, charitable, good people when we decide to contribute to an organization? So Mark, I know that we put up a little graphic. We have a graphic for that, where Wendy wanted to share with us. So Wendy, could you go over sort of these 3 points for, I mean, as responsible consumers, responsible people, responsible advocates, what should we be looking for in an organization before we give them our dollar?
Absolutely, Belinda. Thank you for this opportunity. And especially now, there's over 1.5 million nonprofit organizations that's available.
1.5 million.
1.5 million nonprofit organizations to support. So it's first, we want you to look at your philanthropic autobiography, and basically it's what speaks to your soul. What are you passionate about? Look at your core values, your passions, and your interests, and make sure that the organization mission aligns with your core values. And that way, once you do that, you'll have a more better connection with the organization. The next thing, once you've identified the organizations that you would like to support, you want to vet your charities. You want to go to their website, look for their annual report, make sure they have their tax exempt status, their 501c3. And then there are also organizations that will help you vet your organization. GuideStar, Charity Navigator, Charity Watch, and GiveWell are some of the organizations that will help you vet your organization. You want to...
Like, there are a lot of people that ask us to give money, and if you don't check these things, you might find out that you're giving dollars that are paying for who knows what, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you want to make sure your dollars are going towards their programs and services, or whether it's events and it's being used the way you donated the money to be used. Mm-hmm. And after that, you know, if you have an expertise in a subject or a matter that you would like to share, or time that you would like to share with an organization that you have an interest, definitely reach out to them. There's always an opportunity to volunteer, to give your time, to give your service.
So it's not just dollars.
I'm sorry?
A lot of people are just asking for, like, dollars. And there are a lot of people that are not working now, and, like, maybe dollars is not the way they can give.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, Dress for Success, we're always looking for volunteers. And again, what's your area of expertise or your time that how you would want to donate and give your time to the organization. is truly important. And I would strongly suggest you getting that information on their website and definitely reaching out to the organization and finding out what their needs are, and then seeing if you're able to provide that service for them to help them continue.
So you're saying that, so like whatever organization you're interested in, if you don't have the dollars, you can just call and they might say like, come help with fill in the blank.
Exactly, whatever their needs are. You know, the information is probably posted on their website. So I would advise you to go to the website first, and then there's always information on how to contact the organization and contact them to find out what their needs are at this particular time.
I love it. This is such smart stuff. I feel like in this moment where we're all trying to be more aware and more conscious and do more, I mean, whoever you are in this space and in these spaces outside of this space, like we all just want to be better people. And I think part of it is like, you need to know the owner of the restaurant before you eat there and know what they're doing, but you also need to know what that charitable organization is really doing. So I'd love for you to also just tell us, and I think there are a lot of people who are curious about it. I see Tanya Pitts from San Francisco, who also loves Dress for Success as much as I do.
Awesome.
Can you tell us a bit more about your organization? I mean, you're my choice. I mean, you're my spirit animal. I've done a lot of charitable things and, you know, I try to anyway. And, you know, restaurants, as we all know, those of us who work in them are always asked by a lot of charities to contribute in many different ways. But like, I've done all of my research and I really feel that your mission and what you do with my dollar and everything that I try to contribute is like really exceptional. So tell us more about Dress for Success specifically, please.
Sure, absolutely. And Belinda, thank you for your continued support over the years. You've been a true advocate for our organization.
Listen, I love anything that's about like looking cute, but also that's also about Excel and learning how to like manage your finances and beyond that.
Oh, absolutely.
I put 2 links in the chat. These are links that Wendy shared with us that where you can go and search different ways that you can help various organizations, and it doesn't have to be monetary. You don't have to be out in the streets protesting. You know, Wendy mentioned, if you're good at graphic design, if you're good at marketing, advertising, these are websites that will pair you with an organization where your skills will be used and you'll be doing better good, essentially. So they're right there. If you have a chance, check those out for sure. But go ahead. Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No,
thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Matt. So Dress for Success is an international organization providing support and developmental tools to help women become self-sufficient. To date, we've provided 1.2 million women around the world with programs and services. And we're mostly known for our suiting program, but through the pandemic.
Wendy, Oprah told us about that. Like I saw it on an Oprah show and it was about clothes, but then I learned from you about the deeper part of it.
Yes, absolutely. And it's about the programs and services that truly help our women become self-sufficient. Today, as Joy, our CEO, mentioned earlier, we're working virtually. So even though our doors may be closed, Dress for Success is still open, and we're still providing services for women around the world. Through our virtual coaching, our women have the opportunity to have their own virtual coach to help them with their resumes, conducting mock interviews, helping them get promoted, whatever the needs of the women are in regards to our job seekers.
Wendy, my favorite part is the financial education. I mean, if I'm still here, she thinks that I need it, but you know, it's great.
Yes, our financial education program is amazing, and our workshops are truly amazing. So every time I sit through a financial workshop, I continue to take down notes and actually learn something that I can definitely incorporate in our lives. We have something for every woman at every stage of her professional development to offer at Dress for Success. So I strongly urge you, if you're in need of our services, definitely go to our website and get involved with our organization. We also list what your gift of $50 will go towards helping a woman with her first mock interview. $100 goes towards her suiting. $250 is the Career Center services and the suiting program. $500 will help her with her workforce development, along with the Career Center services and the suiting programs. And it's broken out from $750 going down to $2,000. So we're truly
Your
transparent.
dollars like really result in real results, which I just love. Mhm.
Yes, so we're truly transparent in regards to how we're using the funding. There's various ways to get involved with Dress for Success. We also are actually doing a virtual walk on July the 18th. So I invite you all to participate in that as well.
I'm checking my calendar right now.
Thank you. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we continue to invite you to check our website. We have other virtual events that's coming down the pipeline for the rest of 2020.
So great. Wendy, I thank you for coming to share with us all of this really important information. I think what I love and cherish so much is this is a group of people, this is a community, it's a safe space, but it's also people that are super engaged and want to be better and do good. So I'm happy that you shared your story and the DFS story with this group, and also just how this group can be smarter about how they spend their charity dollars and also what they can do. So I love it. I love you so much.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. We're all in this together.
Yeah, we are.
It's a team effort.
So we have so much information for everyone, and we'll share how to give to DFS specifically, and also the information that Wendy gave. And then I mean, our time is up for today. For the show prop. I mean, we always out, but what happens next? I think we preview what's happening next week, right, Matt?
Yeah, that is what we do next week. S for Salsa, episode 15. S for all the good things, Sonoma Life with Joyce Sterling, the CEO of Iron Horse Vineyard. She's going to be tuning in.
Dancing?
We've already done Napa, but this time we're doing Sonoma.
We're going to Sonoma. She's going to talk about her wine list. We also have a brunch package for that will be at the end of this brunch. We'll show the slide for it. She's offering a great deal for 3 bottles of wine. Followed by sugar tie-dye cookies with Grace Lee, the owner of Love, Sugar, and Grace in Chicago. Another great package for the brunchers. And then finally, to work off all those calories, to work off all that booze, we have Salsa with Zeke Rubalcaba, who I noticed I was like 14 years old. He's one of the best dancers I personally know, and a professional choreographer, owns his own dance studio. So yeah, it's going to be a great, fantastic week next week.
I can't wait especially to meet Zeke and to learn how to dance.
He's definitely a firecracker. This is the brunch deal for Iron Horse. So go to that link, belindacheng.com/JoysSonoma. To use the discount code BRUNCHERS. You can get these 3 bottles for a great discounted price. So you can drink along with Joyce Sterling, taste along, run you through some of the pairings she likes.
This is sick.
This is Grace's package. Yeah, so this is a tie-dye cookie cutter package, which is crazy. I don't even know where to begin with that. I don't even know how she's going to do it, but it sounds really cool. Discount code BOOZY. BelindaCheng.com/Grace's brunch kit for that kit. So 2 kits.
This is fun. Our family has done this before. She sends you anywhere in the country this little kit with the cookies and then all these different colors of frosting, and then you can frost them, and we'll all do that together. We did that for my niece's 3rd birthday. Kim knows. Kim was there, and it was so fun. And like kids love it, adults love it too, and it's just like a neat little pivot to how you keep your business going if it's a baking business during a pandemic.
Yeah, so great lineup next week. What an awesome hour this week, though. I've had such a fun time.
Thank you, Philippe Andre. Thank you for your New Orleans vignette one, so we could see what's going on down there, and for teaching us just the tip of the iceberg about Champagne. And Lydia, we clearly need to hire you for so much more cheese education, because I know you know so much and I want to know all of it. And I finished my grilled cheese, which is so epic. And then Wendy, you know I love you so much. I'm obsessed with Dress for Success. I think that what you guys have done and how you communicate it and how you help women, not just with clothes and jewelry and beautiful makeup, but also with financial education, is something that we should all support. It's super important, and I love it so much. So,
and can we pull up that slide one more time, just to show the links one last time? These are all the organizations that everyone is donating to. So Philippe Andre, United Sommelier Foundation, there's the link. For Lydia, Venmo her, and she's forwarding all those donations to the Kendall College School of Culinary Arts for books and funds for that school.
Wow, Lydia, that's awesome. So cool.
Then, of course, you have Wendy Wilkins, who's supporting Just for Success. So if you can't, please hit that link there too. But aside from that, B, what a great episode.
We love you all so much. I wish we could all be in a restaurant together, but I just don't think that's the right thing for us to do right now. So,
Not yet.
So here we are. So thank you for joining us. I hope that you will join us every week until we can be together in real life and in person, because Matt and Gabe and Mark and I and Kim too all want to continue to provide this amazing space and this amazing experience for all of you moving forward. So bring your friends, and we're done. We're going to unmute everyone at some point because